the United States, except for the few who knows the truth. So we love that we have this opportunity in this time, that we have social media, that this major media that has been spinning everything out of control, and the lies and the narrative that they keep putting out is so hurtful. And yet Americans believe it. If you ask them if they believe everything they watch on the news or they hear, they say no. But in reality, when they don't get the truth and they aren't willing to seek for it, they're not going to get it. And so it takes work on both sides of people. If they want to know what the truth is, then they can find it. They just have to look.
Shawna, I'd like to ask you a question. I've turned on my camera because we were encouraged by Revolution Radio. They're going to live stream this. And I wanted to encourage you, because we heard about you, but this is the first time since this happened that we've actually had an opportunity to interview you. And we want to share our sorrow and our grieving with you also, because of the tragedy of what has happened, and the fact I think you lost a family member when a barn was blown up, which was part of this operation, and that it's not often mentioned, which is another tragedy. But what I'm looking at also is the fact that because of what God did in answering prayer, we were able to get Victoria Sharp. Within 2 days, we were able to get her up on this video, and she gave a video affidavit of what happened. And right now, you, one of 4 people that were in that truck, you were in that truck. And as far as I know, you were in that truck, and they were trying to murder you. And I would really like it if you could, if you want to, bring us through your experience about what happened when they were attempting to put you to death.
Absolutely. I don't mind sharing that, because it was a surprise to us. We had an idea that things might be ramping up. We did know that. We were taking precautions so that in case there was a problem, that we would be in safety. I wasn't actually scheduled to even be in the truck, neither was Victoria. I was busy doing other things at the refuge, and we had it was planned out that these vehicles would leave every 10 minutes so that they wouldn't be right together. Little did we know that there was an undercover with us, and
who was that?
That was Mark McConnell.
Okay.
That has
Identify as many people as you can, because these people need to be prosecuted for conspiracy and treason, and conspiracy to be, before the fact, after the fact, to cover up murder. So please identify as many people as you want.
Well, I will tell you about this incident. There are some things still going on in that they're trying to bring out in trial, so I don't know everything I can expose, except for I do know that that has been shown in court. It was admitted by the government that he was an undercover. He was a paid informant. And so even though he denied it many times and lied and said all kinds of things, we knew. Well, as we were traveling along, we left the refuge. The reason we left the refuge and we went late was because the people ahead of us were a little bit slow, and we couldn't find the person that was supposed to be doing the video. I had been trying to help the Sharp family get into their vehicle. They had a van with all the little children. That was Victoria's family, and I was trying to get them in, and we couldn't find Victoria nor the little boy, Stefan, because they had been down to the bunkhouse, and she just got there the night before and was in the shower. So they weren't able to find her.
Is somebody able to turn that phone off in the background?
I'm sorry, I couldn't reach it, but it's off now.
Okay.
Anyway, so we had to wait for Victoria to get out of the shower, and she came on in the next vehicle. Sorry. Let me take care of that.
It's okay. We know you're a popular
consistent,
person,
right.
Shawna. We know you're a
nightmare after a while.
you're a warrior that is you have more momentum behind you now than ever before, and God's on your side. So we're excited to be with you, and we think it's exciting to see where this is going, because you've got everything on your side. You didn't commit a crime. You didn't hurt anyone. You weren't seeking to violate any laws. You were asserting your constitutional rights to appear and to demonstrate and to make public comments. And instead, the government sent, 9 or 12 informants into the Malheur refuge to spy on you, to lie to you people, and then set you up for a government sting murder ambush. And we've had a lot of military people that we've talked to, and we've been military ourselves. This was an ambush, an assassination attempt on you. They tried to murder you, as Michael J. observed, and you have every right to bring this to not only a court in the highest court in the land, but you also have a right and a duty, I'd say, to bring it to the international court. The international attention and the international news channels should be empowering you to tell your story about just how tyrannical these government operatives under the Obama administration, at the Bureau of Land Management, at the FBI, how vicious and tyrannical and murderous they were towards you. And you, by the grace of God, survived. Go ahead, Shawna.
Yes, when we got, and I appreciate that, when we got into the vehicle, I got in the last second and with Victoria. And as we were traveling, Victoria was very tired. Like I said, she was up late and she just had a shower. She fell asleep on Ryan's shoulder. And so they were kind of napping with him. And I was in the back seat with them. Ryan Payne was in the front seat in front of me, and Lavoy was driving. And when we got about 34 miles into it, I'm going to have to turn off this phone. I'm sorry. Give me 1 second.
While she's doing that, I want to remind everybody that the night before they were entangled in this entrapment where Lavoy was killed, they got a call from Stuart Best. I can't remember the name of his organization, but they were warned. Oath Keepers, thank you. They were warning Lavoy then to go and talk to Ammon and to move their venue out of the Malheur, that they knew they were in trouble. So
we did, yes.
Yeah.
So what happened is we had an invitation from people that were being terrorized over in Grant County. They had lost so many of their homes up on the mountains, and the forest had been burned, and they had been trying to stand on their own. They developed their own fire department kind of rescue system, because they fired the Forest Service guys because they weren't doing a very good job of protecting them. And the sheriff over there was very much in support of that. He's a constitutional sheriff. In fact, we learned later that Grant County had been deemed a UN-free zone. Now, that's really important when people understand, and we'll come back to that in a minute. But I'm going to go back. As we're traveling down this road, I'm trying to make some phone calls because I had left my post and had nobody to replace me, and I was trying to make sure that things were still functioning while I was gone. And then I was calling people in John Day to come to the meeting so that they would be able to see this concert that was going on and hear what was going to be said. And that's when we lost our signal. At that time is when I look up, and Ryan Payne said, I think it was Lavoy said, it's an attack, and Ryan Payne said, no, it's an ambush. And anyway, and so they followed out behind us. And all the phones are going off. Shoot. Anyway, they followed out behind us, and it was crazy because Lavoy was really concerned about that Jeep behind it that had Ammon in it with Buddha and Mark McConnell, because immediately that Jeep started to pull over. And that made Lavoy really nervous. And he kept saying, come on, you guys, what are you slowing down for? You know, anyway, the attention rose instantly in the vehicle. And as it pulled over, and then we could see them coming upon us, Ryan Payne had said, you better stop, Lavoy, because Lavoy wasn't going to stop. He said, you better stop because they're going to catch us. And so he stopped in the middle of the road. He really didn't want to do that. He was, his leg was just jumping up and down, and he did stop. And as soon as we got stopped, then Ryan Payne puts his hands out the window, and that's when Victoria and I heard that shot come, and well, first of all, we saw the laser. We could see the red laser light going back and forth and around through the mirror, and then pling, we heard the shot, and Ryan Payne recoils back into the truck. I mean, and says, they're shooting at us. And wow, I mean, why? I mean, we hadn't done anything. We stopped, and that's not how a road stop goes, you know. So we knew at that point we were going to take off. But Ryan Payne jumped out of the vehicle, and I believe that he jumped out because he wanted to protect us, because he yells at them, there's women in the truck, and all they did was, you know, he said, you know, come on, get out, go ahead and get out. And Victoria and I looked at her and she looked at me, and her eyes are like saucers, and she said, I'm not getting out. And I said, neither am I. And I wasn't about to leave. I wouldn't have gotten out, but I wasn't about to leave her either, because, you know, anyway, we didn't know what the dangers were ahead. All we know is that the next thing, we don't see Ryan Payne because they make him walk back to their vehicle. We can't see him, and the lasers are still all over us. And then you can see, that's when I get reached down, when Ryan Bundy says, what are we going to do? And I said, we're going to get out our best weapons, our best defense. And I reached down and pull up my camera. This is not a cell phone. It is my camera that I was going to video at the Sharp family and the meeting. And so they got it mixed up. It wasn't a cell phone at all. Remember, I'm still trying to call out on my cell phone. And I'm reaching, and I get that camera. And I make sure that it's on record, because you know, sometimes you hit and you miss. I double checked that to make sure that it was recording. And then I put it up over the top of my head. At that point, I'm recording everything, but I don't know what's on that recording. That's what's crazy. I can see with my eyes, and I'm trying to work the phone, but I'm holding that camera. And even when we took off and started fleeing, because we made the decision together, you know, I guess you hear my voice in the audio, and I say, I say to him, how far is it to John Day? And he says 52 miles. That's my brain reverts back to, okay, plan B, because I don't think we can outrun them in the icy road. So I said, you know, what are they going to do? Shoot out our tires or our window? I mean, we don't know. I say, tell them to approach the vehicle. I mean, most officers, if they were an officer, should approach the vehicle and ask questions. Why wouldn't they? None of us had a weapon, so why wouldn't they come to the vehicle? But I guess because of all the lasers that were going around, we were afraid they were going to start shooting more. We didn't know what they were going to do. We were kind of ducking, and we needed to go for help, and that's what Lavoy's plan was, to go for help, and we went. Now, when we traveled, I knew that it was I didn't know exactly how many minutes, other than I can tell pretty well how fast we're traveling, just because I've been around a long time. with the vehicle. So I knew we were doing about 60 miles an hour, even on that icy road. But it didn't take long when I can see as Lavoie says, hold on, there's a roadblock. He said, there's a roadblock. He says, hold on. And as we fishtail off to the left as he's turning, I can see all that ice and slush come up over the top of that wheel well on the right. And then I'm face to face with the roadblock because I'm in that back seat and I can see them. And then we go into the snowbank, and I think we would have come around had not that man run out in front of us. Now, I didn't see the man. I only saw that from the air because I didn't know why he had veered off to the left. Anyway, and that's when we got stuck in that snowbank. But he jumped directly out of that seat immediately. He abandons the vehicle and tries to open the door. It was so heavy he couldn't get it open, and it kind of slides back on him, and then he pushes it with both hands, and then I see him jump into the snow. Now remember, I'm down in the seat and I still have this camera going, so I can't. Yes,
Shawna, was there a fire shot through the windshield first?
No.
Okay.
They all hit the front of the truck. It did not come through the windshield.
Okay.
So he jumps out into the snow with his hands up, and like I said, and like you can hear, he's yelling, "Go ahead and shoot me, go ahead and shoot me." And that was because he was trying to protect us. I knew he was trying to protect Ryan. That's been his whole goal, was to make sure that those boys were safe because they had young families. And so his heart was, his whole goal and his heart was about saving them, that nothing would happen to those boys. I know that he wasn't going to fire at them because he didn't have a weapon. We didn't have any weapons out.
Shawna, Lazaro's on with you now.
Okay, great.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah, stand by, Lazaro. Stand by, because I want to bring Nitehawk in, the owner of Revolution Radio, first, because he has some very powerful things and he needs to share with you, Shawna, about that event that can help you. Go ahead, Nitehawk. Yes, we can.
Yes.
Sure. Yes, I don't know everybody. I'm sorry, I don't know everybody. Yeah, sorry. Sure. Okay, all right. That brings in some really interesting things. So, well, let me back up a little bit. So, what happened? So, after all the after he gets out and after he's been shot, and then I knew that Ryan had been shot, and we had all the lasers inside the vehicle, and we knew that we were being shot at over and over, and you can hear that, even though they say they only shot 9 times or whatever it was. I find it was really hard for me to even fathom that they said that. Number one, 5 of them hit the window by my head, and it didn't break, and it was the only one that was not broken out. So for them to say that we were, that we weren't being shot at, that wasn't true. And then after we got shot at, and finally, when they finally stopped shooting, and we had been screaming, and you can tell that we wanted them to stop, and we got out of the vehicle, this is the part that you don't see, and that's when I climbed out of the vehicle. I had tried to get Victoria to go first. Now, I'm not trying to throw her to the wolves, but the problem was I wanted her to go first because I knew that they were coming after Ryan. I was afraid they were going to shoot him. I knew they didn't know we were in there, and I wanted her to get out so that they would not shoot her. But they made him go out first, then she goes out. Then I have to put my camera down. Well, after that is when as I'm climbing out, I can see that this truck is still running. And I'm in the vehicle business, so I know that this is a stick shift. And I know that the headlights are still on and this truck is still running. The motor is still running, and they have, and it has spun a great big block of ice in the back. So we were in there for a period of time. It was more than a minute or two. It was minutes before we were able to get out of that truck, because you will see this big block of ice where that truck has actually spun. It was still spinning. And when I got out, I have a broken foot, and I was trying to be very careful about stepping down into that deep snow, and I had to follow the ruts of the track of the truck where the tire tracks were. And as I look up, I can see Lavoie, and he's laying dead in the snow. I can tell. And he's facing me. So I know that he's deceased. And then I look up into the trees. And this is when he's talking about those snowmobiles, I'm telling you that there was a number of these guys I didn't stop and count them, but there was a number of them. As I look up through the trees, out from behind the trees, they all step to the left. And each of them in their hand has a long rifle. And they're dressed in camouflage with military hats on. And that was, and I could see binoculars on them. I could see, so they're like, they have to be snipers. Why would they need a binocular that close? And I could see it. I felt like I was in an army zone, like I was in a war zone. And that's when I yell up to them and I say, and I didn't do it angrily. I just said, you've killed an innocent man, and you all have blood on your hands, and you will be accountable for that. That's what I said. And then they kept yelling at me from on the roadside. They wanted me to get up there, and I kept saying, I'm coming, just, I have to go through this rut. I can't climb through the snow. I'm coming. And they would yell at me. So who else is in the vehicle? Nobody. And then as I get up higher, they would ask again. 5 times they asked me. So who else is in the truck? Nobody. As I got up to the top, Victoria was standing up there. And she was cold and scared, and they had put zip tie cuffs on her. And when I came to the top, they put metal cuffs on me. But she was really nervous, and she kept saying, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. And I said, sorry for what? And she said, I couldn't remember your name. I'm thinking, how could that be the least of your worries? Anyway, she said, I told him it started with an S. She remembered them, but it was because of fear. And of course, they asked her how old I was, and she told them 30 or 40, and I was happy about that, but she doesn't know, the difference when you're 18. But she was so in shock. And so I'm trying to keep her warm because she didn't even have her vest on. She didn't even have her coat or anything when she got out. And they led us together as we were going back across the road. So they didn't want us to look. They stood there and opened fire and just fired into that truck after we'd told them 5 times that there's nobody else in there. Anyway, they just opened fire and blew out the windows, and the window I was sitting by, everything was blown out by then. And I thought, how stupid, how foolish. Why would they do such stupid things? None of this made sense to me. We knew they were going to kill us. Inside that truck, we were afraid for our lives. We knew that it was any second. And then later when they tell me that they were firing rubber bullets, I didn't even know they existed. I've been around guns all my life, but I didn't know they had rubber bullets. And I can tell you from the velocity of a gun, it doesn't matter if you had a rubber bullet. If that window had broken and it hit me in the head, it still would have killed me. So with all the gas tubes and all that, we realized when those came in. But all that firing made no sense. We all knew that we were sitting ducks to be killed. Why didn't we get killed? We were praying. That's why we were praying.
Amen.
And somebody came upon the incident on a snowmobile. There was a couple that showed up on a snowmobile. And I believe it was the people who lived close there, heard all this and came. They since have been killed or died since then. There was another vehicle that came from the north side, and he was told to turn around and go back. And the strange thing is there's a lot of things that happened, and many people who've died since. And that's what's the scary part, is because it is out of control. Not only do you lie, and then you murder, and then you lie some more, and then more people die. And it's a conspiracy, and you can't shut everybody up, because our biggest defense is videos, word of mouth, social media. Our best defense that we have is communication. And when they stop your communication, like they've done to your radio show, or they do to all the people who are trying to put out the truth, they did that to the radio network down there in Arizona when they were trying to interview Ammon Bundy while he was at the refuge. They actually blew up that. It was millions of dollars. They had satellites, and all their whole stations went down. They were taken out right as he was supposed to come on the air. They do not want the truth out there. They don't want people to know about the Constitution. They don't want people to know that we have natural rights, that we have rights, and that that's what our Constitution was all about. They have usurped this country, and I am not a spring chicken, and I've been around this for a very long time, so I have a lot of information way before this. But having seen it with my own eyes, it was unbelievable that they have no qualms, and they think they're doing the right thing. It's exactly like what happened in Germany, because people who are just doing their job are a party to this.
Shawna, when that senator said that this movement down in the Malheur refuge was a virus and it needed to be extinguished, did you know that he had said that?
I did not, because you have to understand, we were at the refuge. We didn't have outside communication, very little. There was very little going on. We were putting out messages, and we get a little bit of feedback from somebody that might be talking to their family, or other people that would come in and give us a little bit of information. But as far as that, we were not privy to any of the stuff that was going out, because we didn't have a TV, radio station. We didn't have any of that.
By the time this happened, how long had you been at the refuge, and what was really going on there in the community of people? Because a lot of people are wanting to say that they were a bunch of people that were willing to go out and shoot people. But I think that what your inside perspective is going to be different from those people that were in there in agents actually, and the people that were coming to try to provoke you guys. What was your perspective about what was happening in the Malheur Refuge, and why were you guys there?
I was there from day one. I was one of the first few that went in. So I can tell you that there was nobody out to shoot anybody. There was no intent ever to shoot anybody. It was the only reason there was any weapons at all was to protect us, because we knew what they're capable of doing, because we had already been through the Bundy Ranch and we saw them come in all their army and riot gear and attack down there over cattle, which was ridiculous because it really wasn't about the cows at all. And I knew all that. But while we were at the refuge, nobody had any intent to do that kind of thing. We didn't know till later exactly how many undercovers there were, but I can tell you that we know about 15. Okay,
wow.
So the government would only stipulate to 9. So anyway, it seems like we just keep uncovering more and more truth, and it's really pathetic that you find that there are so many people that were duped because they believe that we were this armed militia coming in there to attack people. But the local people that they came to find out, and they were brave. They came because the very first ones came, and they knew that we were not dangerous people, that we were there to help them, and they were awesome to us. They felt the love. And that's all we did. We went there to help them. We loved those ranchers. We love those people. We love our neighbor. That's all we were doing. We were there trying to help them because they have been wronged for years and years, just like it happened down in Nevada and many other places across this country. And especially, it isn't just the ranchers. It's the miners and the timber industry, and it's all of the resources that are being stolen from us. And so while I was there, I was looking for that stuff. I was looking for that information. Mostly, number one was to get the Hammonds. We wanted to exonerate the Hammonds. We knew that information was there, and we knew that, and that's why we had gone there to get it. We had to have that evidence that they had concealed, and the other stuff that had not been allowed to be put into the courtroom because it was being manipulated by the powers that be. They did not allow the truth into that courtroom because it's all rigged. And I've seen it so much from now these 2 trials. We won only because a slim miracle. I had no idea. Never been to court, had to do all that before. I had to learn how to become my own attorney. And because I could see all the lies that were happening. Look, the Greek word. You
had a family member killed, and most people don't know anything about this, Shawna. Are you able to share that with us?
Well, listen, I can't prove that. So but the incident sounds so, because the timing was so unreal. I had just barely gotten out of jail that night. They threw me out, actually, and I didn't know that they had sent. My attorney, I guess, had called my husband and told him that I couldn't come home unless all of our guns and ammo were out of our house. And so he called my daughter and her husband, and they came to my house that day and picked up all of our guns and ammunition and took them to their house at their shop. They took it to their shop. And I knew nothing about that. And when they released me that night, they had made an error. Somebody made an error. They weren't supposed to release me yet. I was supposed to have an ankle bracelet on. I was supposed to sign some papers. I didn't know that. They just threw me out in the dark. They brought me in the middle of the night, and they threw me out in the middle of the night. I had no idea. So when I called my family, it was about, I think it was 3:27, something like that, when I got a call back from my attorney. Well, as I was leaving, it was all close to midnight, and I called my family, and my daughter was hysterical because it had just occurred shop had caught fire, and it was an inferno. She had been in there with the kids, and they'd gone up to the house to go to bed, and she didn't know until all the fire department came, and trucks were there, and she ran down. That place was an inferno. She couldn't get in. She couldn't save him, and he was burnt to death in this fire, along with all of the weapons and everything. So it's really suspicious that that accident happened on that particular day. So it was a real tragedy, and it's been a really hard time for her. His funeral was going to be on the same day as Lavoie's, but we put it to the next day. So we had this is in our own community, we had 2 funerals back to back, and it's been difficult because Jeanette is my friend, Lavoie was my friend, and I knew all their family and their grandparents, and I know, and then to have my daughter go through this, and it's just been hard helping them as they have to adjust to becoming widows and having these children fatherless. So, but yeah, a lot of people don't know about that, and I don't talk about it a lot because it's too close to home, I guess.
Shawna,
anyway,
let me jump in, and we'll let Lazaro, because he's been on the line, and I wanted to give him a chance to talk. But also,
sure.
Nitehawk, I wanted to encourage you, of course, and you know, I've been there too myself. I don't know how much you know about me, but I was a military officer. I was thrown in jail by the Obama administration after I discovered all of the Swiss bank terrorist financing that they were involved with, the Clinton Foundation, and everything that you see unfolding is really responsible of me and Brad Birkenfeld in 2012. So all of this...
Somebody's got a mic on, Scott.
Yeah, if somebody has a mic, they can shut it off. So I've been there with you, and I was thrown in jail, and I had to be my own attorney as well. I had to learn the law, and, you know, I came out of the experience, and I was a military officer, top secret clearance, you know, the golden child of Americana. And when they did this to me and threw me in jail for 2 years on trumped up charges, completely false, the first time in the history of the United States has a president gone after a military guy and charged him with a civilian crime with making a paperwork error on a housing form because they were trying to bury my reports on terrorist financing. But I went into jail, and I'll tell you this, God worked in an incredible, miraculous way, because when he sent me to jail, I met the whistleblower himself that had the 19,000 bank accounts. And I came out of jail a deeply changed man and a more powerful man, because I went through this trauma, this hardening experience. And when I came out, I knew the law, my eyes were opened, I knew my country, I knew the military, I knew everything that a man needs to know to continue the fight in a very victorious way. And you've been similarly touched, and in many ways even worse, because you've had family that have been killed, you've had friends killed, but you've come out of this. And now you have a strength, and of course the Lord protects and strengthens those. He gives his angels charge over thee. You know, he gives us a tongue our enemies cannot gainsay nor resist. This world is not our home. To be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. And we fear nothing. We don't fear death. We don't fear anything that they can do to us, because we've been touched in a way that no one else has. We've been given access to something that is so important to share with our fellow Americans, because what they did to you, they did to them. They did to every single American citizen. And in the acquittal and the dismissal of these charges, it is exposing them as being a pack of murderers and liars from the beginning. And now you have the chance to unite all of this material into a lawsuit, to unite all of this material into presentations such as this one, into books, into presentations and talks, and share with the American public all of these missing facts that they never knew, that the mainstream media never reported. I never knew people came down, well, actually, I would say they were sent by God on snowmobiles to be witnesses that sent the evildoers to flight. The witnesses stopped these assassins from continuing their murder attempt. And every person that was there, every FBI agent, every state police agent, every CIA agent, every contractor, they will be brought into exposure, and that's our continued hope, not for our sake, not for